Welcome to Speaking Holistically, the podcast that explores the power of alternative medicine, natural healing, and homeopathic solutions to help you achieve true wellness. Each week, Dr. Jen and Amy G dive into the world of holistic health, discussing researched, time-tested remedies with expert insights from Dr. Jen, as well as real-life stories from patients to empower you to take charge of your health. So if you're ready to embrace a more natural path to wellness, let's start speaking holistically, because true healing begins from within. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Speaking Holistically. I'm your co-host, Amy G. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Dr. Jen. And today we're doing a Family Health Hub episode on women's health, and we're talking a little bit about menopause.
Yes, we are. We're planning on doing an entire course on menopause, so you have all the information so that you can make...
It's a big topic.
Yeah, you can make the choices that you need to make for yourself. There's plenty of people doing HRT. Some of it is synthetic, some of it is bioavailable. At the end of the day, you know, we're being told it causes cancer, and then other people are saying, no, it doesn't. It actually decreases your risk of cancer, and nobody is getting the information straight because it feels like everybody's trying to sell something. It's like they all have a product to sell or something. It's coming down to the bottom line. But really what happens is it's a bigger story than that. One of the things that I always have women do, if possible, is do genetic testing. The Max Gen Labs, which I mention all the time because they're the cheapest, easiest things that you can do with the most amount of information. And you don't have to go through your doctor to get that information, which is fabulous.
And they give you so much information. It's like 30 pages of data, which is, it's like all you need.
And you never have to do it again because it's genetics. That doesn't change. So It's not like you're getting your blood tested and getting charged a fortune every 6 months. So the thing is it will tell you how your body detoxifies excess estrogen or how it handles it. So some women are going on HRT, taking a lot of estrogen, and their doctor's like, no, it's fine if we're adding progestin or progesterone or whatever. And it's like, you can't really make that statement unless you know what their genetics are and how their body processes it. Because if they are a bad detoxifier, it's going to increase estrogen in their bodies, which is kind of what they're looking for to get rid of some of the symptoms, but it can be detrimental to the point that it can increase the risk of female cancers. So having that information first so that you can make those choices. And if you don't have an issue detoxing estrogen, then it may be a safer option for you. So same thing if women have been on birth control pills for, decades, and then go on HRT and not have any idea that they have an issue detoxing estrogen, then that can absolutely end up as a problem. So it's not bad luck. It's not bad genes. It's that we have to manage what we're doing with our lifestyle.
I have a question. If you have your labs done, where do you look to see how you detoxify?
It literally says estrogen. Like it literally says it on those boxes, on those pages. So it'll tell you there's 2 boxes, and one is one form of like estradiol, I believe. And the other one just lets us know how many genes that are not good detoxifiers or they don't process estrogen as readily as they could. So there's a lot of information out there that we're not being told. So this is some of the stuff we're going to do in the course, because I'd be here for 6 hours trying to...
There's too much to unpack.
Explain everything. Yeah. Well, and then actually a patient up in Idaho, she works at a hospital, and she just sent me this email, and they have a showing of a movie, and I'm not going to get into it because I don't want people, going and blasting the hospital, but it's like this silent epidemic, menopause. And it's like, epidemic? I'm like, no, it's a process that we go through. It's just another phase of our lives. Like, we can dramatize the crap out of it. Once again, what are they selling? Like, why are they scaring people? Why are they
the fear mongering?
Yeah, it's such a horrible thing as menopause. I'm like, I love menopause. Like, are you kidding me? It's the best phase of my hormone life that I've had since I was probably born, But those are the choices that I'm making too. So I'll back up a little bit. I was having wicked hot flashes, like wicked. And I thought, oh no, here we go. Because as much as I've learned about it, being a physician and helping patients with it, unless you go through it, you don't understand it. So I'm going through it and I'm waking up with puddles, on my chest, and the sheets are soaking wet. And I used to hear, oh yeah. And I'm like, oh, so they're probably a little damp. I'm like, oh no. So what I was finding is I'm not a big drinker and I would have a couple of cocktails or something. And that night I would wake up 5 or 6 times in the middle of the night, literally puddle, like laying in a puddle of puddles on me, like just
Oh my God.
miserable. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I was like, I have to get this under control. This is terrible because it's, I already sleep like crap after having 4 kids and sleeping with somebody who isn't a sound sleeper, So I ended up increasing my liver support, which makes a huge difference because we've talked about this before, but the liver has over 500 functions. One of which is to take fats and convert them into basically precursors for hormones, which then turn into hormones. So you have to have the liver to be healthy to be able to do that. The biggest thing I see in my office is that women do not want to stop drinking alcohol. So they would rather go and get HRT patches. They'd rather go get pellets. They'd rather go do all this stuff because they don't want to stop their drinking.
Wow.
So yeah, and I mean, that's their choice, but you don't get to complain about your symptoms when you're basically doing it to yourself. I mean, you can, but you don't really get to. I have very little empathy when it comes to that. I'm past the point of sympathy. So how bad were they making me? How miserable were they making me? How bad was my attitude? And then we also look at the different emotions that impact different organs or vice versa, how those organs impact our emotions. And the liver deals with anger, frustration, aggression, and irrationality. And and the gallbladder is also resentment. So if that doesn't describe a menopausal or perimenopausal woman, I don't know what it does. So if you can support your liver, you're going to feel a whole lot better. So supporting the liver, huge. Changing your lifestyle. So get all the sugars out of your diet. I know you love chocolate. I know you love I just have a little snack at night. Have it earlier in the day and have some protein with it maybe. But the alcohol is a big one. Like I said, I'm not a big drinker, but I even found if I had 2 cocktails, I was like, this is not worth it. So I basically stopped all my drinking. I think I've had, I don't know, maybe 1 cocktail in the last couple of months, but I also made sure I had plenty of food prior to that. And it was way earlier than bedtime. And no, I'm not day drinking, but, but it's not going to be with dinner or at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. And then I'm going to go to bed and hey, hope the liver can handle that. I'm not going to do that. So I supported myself with some sort of liver support, stopped any alcohol, stopped all sugar, decreased. And I don't really eat a ton of processed carbohydrates, but I was really hyper focused on okay, let's not do any of that. And just made sure I was doing vegetables and protein, which is kind of how we should be eating anyway. Let's be real.
Sure. Yeah.
Exercise makes a huge difference too. So once I started doing that, it literally took a couple of weeks. And I mean, if I have a hot flash now, it's more like I could tell I got warm, but I'm not dripping from head to toe. And I would have them in the middle of the day working on patients. I mean, literally my scalp was wet and dripping. And I mean, any woman who's experienced this, you're dripping down your back into your pants, it's like somebody turned a hose on low and you're soaked. So yeah. So for me, I was like, is this alcohol worth it? No, actually it's not. So, for me, it wasn't, but I would rather do that because I know how my body deals with estrogen because I've done my genetics. So I'm not about to increase my risk of female cancers when my grandmother had breast cancer and subsequently died from the metastasis to her bone after they told her she was clear. So, and she did 5 years of tamoxifen. She did all the stuff they told her to do. And so I have a genetic potential for having a predisposition to this. And I'm certainly not going to just keep flipping on those lights and see what happens. So for me, the alcohol isn't worth it. I want to be here for my kids. I want to be here for my husband. I want to be here for my patients. So for me, it was a no-brainer and it was easy, but it did take a couple of weeks just to get my hormones to completely, well, I don't know if they're all completely balanced out, but to balance out better. So liver support, super huge. Adrenal support, super huge. There's also a couple of other things that I have women do. Some of the liver support that I'll have people do sometimes is this cruciferous complete, which we've talked about before. Mm-hmm. It is or can behave like a natural aromatase inhibitor. So it does help get rid of excess estrogen, but it doesn't get rid of all your estrogen. It's not knocking it out of the park so that you never have any estrogen. It's just maybe you have too much. And that could also be playing a role into some of the hot flashes. Generally, we want a little bit more estrogen, but we also want to make sure it's natural estrogen and not the man-made xenoestrogens and stuff like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. using wild yam extract can be okay. I find that I don't get the same results as if I'm just supporting the liver tremendously with milk thistle or a combination of NAC, milk thistle, alpha lipoic acid, like some sort of a combo type situation works really well. Standard Process also has Livco and Livton and Livaplex that I use quite frequently for this. This is kind of the base for most women, one of those, or a combination of the two. Hot Flash is also, this is called Bone Complex, and that's from MediHerb Standard Process. And the Bone Complex, which is really interesting, there's kudzu in it, so that's part of it. But it will also help with, there's black cohosh in here, there's red clover, and some other stuff. So it's really helpful, and some women just swear by it. I didn't have to go this far, so I didn't. The other thing is the general female endocrine packets. And then so taking 1 or 2 of those guys a day with some liver support can completely fix things for a lot of women. Just, it balances it out tremendously. And that's a combination of black currant seed oil, Catalin, which is a whole food multi, hypothalamus PMG to support the hypothalamus, which is the body's main gland. Yeah, it is. And then it tells the pituitary what to do, and then the pituitary basically tells everybody else what to do. It's not quite that simple, but for all intents and purposes of what we're doing, that's kind of what's happening. And Simplex F, which has ovary, adrenal, pituitary, and thyroid support in it. So it does support all of those organs to get them talking together. And then, of course, the tuna omega-3 oil, which is all tested for safety and cleanliness and stuff like that. So like I said, the liver takes the fat. So in this case, like the tuna omega, the black currant seed oil, and uses that as a precursor for those hormones. If you've got extreme hot flashes and some other symptoms, you can try that bone complex and see how that goes. But the other thing that I always do is I take some sort of iodine. So I do take iodoral, and it is a potassium iodine and potassium iodide. So what I do with this is I vacillate between 6.25 milligrams and actually 50 milligrams, which I'm sure some people are clutching their pearls when I say that, because it is a lot.
That's a big delta though.
But it depends on what my body is feeling like and what I need. And research is showing more and more that iodine deficiencies can leave women, or people, really anybody, at risk for having glandular cancers. So I'm thinking, I'm good. I don't need to do this, you know? So I don't eat enough fish because of the cleanliness issue. I do have fish shipped from Alaska on a semi-regular basis. So I do eat some fish, but I'm not eating enough, or eating enough kelp or any of that kind of stuff to make sure that I have enough iodine in my system. So like I said, with my grandmother dying from a metastasis from breast cancer, I'm like, and I find that I feel better. My brain fog is gone. My energy is up. I can find words, especially when I'm taking the iodine. So you can have your doctor or send yourself out for labs with direct labs, and we'll put the link below as well, to check for iodine. Now, I do want to preface this that in March 10th of 2025, they lower the iodine levels again. So people who take iodine are going to look like they're high in iodine as opposed to normal, which they might have been. So just remember, some of these values just keep coming down further and further and further. I'm definitely a huge proponent for iodine, and we're not talking iodized salt. I don't actually have any iodized salt in my house. I try not even to use it at restaurants if I can help it. So I get some extra iodine in my body. But hot flashes generally, and there's other things that we can do for vaginal dryness and for some of these other things that's going to be on that.
In the course.
In the course, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I find obviously this topic is fascinating. It's just it's a hot button topic. And I think so many women are confused by what they're finding in terms of information out there in the world, talking to friends. A lot of them are just told to deal with it by doctors.
Most of my patients, yeah, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but most of my patients are like, oh my gosh, like all my friends are pressuring me to get on HRT. You'll feel so good. You'll be I'm like, but they're not responsible for the outcome for whatever you decide to do. And most of them are like, yeah, I haven't really had any menopausal symptoms. And I was like, yeah, why is that? Because we're giving you the nutrients so that your body can make what it needs to make.
Yeah.
You know, so I just talked to a patient again today, somebody else, and she was telling me the same thing. Like, yeah, she brought that up. And I thought, okay, well, today is the day we're doing this podcast on this. And she's like, I feel amazing. And, you know, here I am. I feel pretty darn good. I can't complain at all. I don't have joint achiness. I don't have all the stuff that all these other women have. And there's definitely a huge lifestyle component to this.
Well, this was a great episode, and I know there's so much to unpack with this topic that we have to make it a course and put it in the Skool Community because there's just too much. So we will dive into all the details and get granular with it in the course. But I think this was a great way to just kind of introduce the topic and talk a little bit about it and give women some extra knowledge as far as their options, because I guarantee their doctors are not giving them the options except deal with it or HRT, at least that I'm aware of.
Well, and they're using the tools that they have. Let's be real. So it's not, that's what they're doing. They've got these tools. That's what they're going to use. They're going to tell the women they have to do this. They're going to feel better. They're going to be younger. They're going to be, and everyone's looking for that magic pill, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, there isn't a magic pill. There's always going to be some sort of give. There's something that you have to give up in order to get some sort of a benefit for most of these pharmaceuticals. Look at the side effects, look at them so that you know what's going on. And I recently saw something on social media where this female endocrinologist was saying something about oh no, all this HRT, it actually decreases your risk of cancer. And I was like, that's a pretty bold statement to make, considering you haven't checked their genetics. So I don't know. I don't know that that's 100% accurate. And I get what she was saying, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of women who are going to be misled by that comment. So
for sure,
there's more to the story than just, hey, do this and it's great. There's generally something you've got to give up.
Yeah. There's a price to pay for sure. Well, thank you, Dr. Jen. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you haven't joined our Skool Community before, I will put the link in the show notes. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, everybody, bye-bye. That wraps up another episode of Speaking Holistically. Thank you for listening. We hope today's conversation gave you new insights and inspiration to take charge of your health. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, be sure and join the Speaking Holistically Skool Community by clicking the link in the show notes. There, you'll get access to daily podcast episodes, weekly live Q&As, educational content, and so much more. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, be well, stay curious, and keep speaking holistically.